So,
Are you kidding?
Thank you for your time. Have a good flight and many more exciting experiments on the orbit. Thanks a lot.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
This right here, this little glitch that appears at the end, has added fuel to the fire behind a theory that has been going on for years, which is that the International Space Station is not real, and that what we're actually seeing here during these live feeds that are supposedly being filmed from inside the space station and the astronauts are talking are nothing more than the astronauts standing in front of a green screen, either standing or suspended by wires to mimic that of free floating in space.
Motion blur in front of your green screen can really be a problem, simply because wherever you have motion blur, the object or your actor are basically being blurred together with the green of the background, which means your chroma key won't be able to tell the difference.
Looks CGI to me.
From all of the evidence I've shown you on this channel, from the moon missions where they were captured faking certain pieces of footage, space station footage can and has been faked.
Look into it.
Now, there's a lot of videos on YouTube where you can watch other clips taken during these ISS missions, some of which show what appear to be wires.
You can see on the back of his shirt a couple of upticks on either side where you would expect wires to come in on either side of that harness.
Come on, that's ridiculous.
No, but
that's why I don't trust the government.
They're often portraying that this is live.
Are you kidding?
Of course, these things are fully choreographed and edited in advance to make sure that there's nothing too obvious that you can see that gives away that this is a suspension in front of a blue screen hoax.
I mean, it's organized. They did doctor up photos and stuff for the public, and they did use some of the Hollywood people.
You can find videos online which have proven that the space station footage put out by China was indeed faked. It was not filmed in space, but rather a massive underground swimming pool, likely with a green screen in the background, showing a digital Earth put into the background. And in fact, I'll show you a clip from that here, where you can actually, during certain points, see bubbles floating up, around, flying left and right, along with some issues with this fake digital Earth in the background, accelerating in its rotation and then slowing down.
In 2013, a gallon of water leaked into one of their spacesuits in a matter of seconds. NASA doesn't really have a proper explanation for how on earth this could have happened.
Are you kidding?
It's so over the top that you just feel alone and have a normalcy bias like Stockholm Syndrome, where you go, I'm all alone. This lie's ridiculous. Why is everyone going along with it? I better go along with it, because who does that say I am? And that's what we're getting down to here, is that it's all to make you feel small. And I'm not saying be on some power trip.
when the Russians beat us into space, we didn't deny Sputnik was up there. We didn't argue about the science or shrink our research and development budget. We built a space program almost overnight, and 12 years later, we were walking on the moon.
The moon landings, are you kidding?
Ignition. Right away, Houston. Vector good. Ag thought.
By the way, there's a small problem with going to the moon, and inch by inch, NASA is leaking out that they know that there's a problem there. It's called the Van Allen belts, high radiation belts of charged particles around Earth, and we don't know how to get through them, they say. Well, isn't that interesting, because there sure didn't seem to be a problem back in 1969.
The moon landing stopped in 1972, and we haven't been back. We haven't been beyond the Van Allen belts.
The most lethal forms of radiation, of course, are at the higher end of the spectrum, That's gamma rays and X-rays. We know what ultraviolet can do. If you stay out too long in the sun, you get sunburn and skin cancer and die, and it's all very sad. But gamma rays, and X-rays especially, are particularly lethal to humans, unprotected humans. There was no protection that I have been able to identify. I've found no reference to it. I found nothing that will tell me what level of protection is offered, so I have to assume none was. I've contacted the manufacturers of the spacesuits, and they said there was no radiation protection built into the spacesuits, because I asked them if these same spacesuits could be used by technicians to go into Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island, because the nuclear reactors produce the same radiation as produced in space. And they said no, not advisable, no protection.
I mean, I never even cared, but now it's all a complete illusion. It's all a joke. The highest level, the media would freak out if they even knew. I don't even care about that anymore. I just care about results with humanity.
Is what we're seeing a mixture of fact and fiction?
It is fact. It is fiction. It's mixed together. It's hard to separate them until you examine it closely.
I could be wrong. It could be real.
There's too many things
it could be real, but they've been faking them so much they look like all those other films.
There's weird evidence.
Nobody went. The damn thing's not even that far away.
Are you kidding?
We only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
Are you kidding?
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Are you kidding?
There were very few vibrations of any sort. Here's a picture of the INSAT actually being deployed from the spacecraft.
Right from Irish television, coordinates for the landing that go down to something like 5 decimal points. I just wanted to confirm with you that you do have them. Have those sort of coordinates, and am I reading those coordinates correctly when I see that it looks as though you've landed within 500 meters of the skirt around the mountain? That, I mean, you're really very close to the mountain at the closer end in the landing ellipse, and possibly within striking distance of the phyllosilicate trench.
I can't confirm that. My estimate, I'm looking for somebody. Yes, there's somebody in the audience here who has that in the tip of their noggin. We should have soon that estimate.
That's not what's going on.
Commander Whitson making history with her record for any American. By the time she lands in September, her tally will be 666 days in space.
At the time of the Apollo 11 mission, Buzz Aldrin was a 32-degree Freemason. They were in good company, as many of NASA's astronauts were also Freemasons.
One of the ways that we promote ourselves among Masons, a reason to join, is we consider ourselves the University of Freemasonry. And the real emphasis in the Scottish Rite is on receiving more light, learning more about the history of our world.
We always indulge in a few pagan rites to appease the EVA gods. These little ceremonies are very, very important to ensure mission success if you do them right.
It's a real ritual.
An interesting photograph hangs on the wall of the Sanctuary of the Scottish Rite Masons in Washington, D.C. This photograph shows astronaut Neil Armstrong holding a Masonic apron over his spacesuit. The photograph has seemingly been taken on the moon, or at least on a studio set which resembles the surface of the moon. Upon his return from the moon, Brother Buzz Aldrin presented a flag to Sovereign Grand Commander Smith, who was the Supreme Commander of the Supreme Council of 33rd Degree Masons of the world.
You're getting what's really going on here. They want to take all this and distort it out and all the rest of it.
Now, a lot of the astronauts were Masons, and that includes some today. We've had at least one or two of shuttle pilots who were as well. But these were all flags that were carried either to the moon or into space.
The short Masonic ritual Armstrong and Aldrin allegedly performed declared the celestial body of the moon to be the property of the Masonic God. Who is the Masonic God? As confirmed by former Supreme Commander of the 33rd Degree and Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, Albert Pike, the Masonic God is Lucifer.
Are you kidding?
With the Earth supposedly 23.4 degrees on its axis. And that leaves you, of course, the occultic number, again, 66.6 degrees off. Well, Earth is supposedly orbiting around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour.